Hey, what's up, boxing fans? This is the Rope and Dope Report. I'm your host, Chris Carlson, and I just got an idea for a video that I had an idea kind of in my head, and then I watched a couple of more videos, and I was watching a blood video just the other day and a Buddhist video, and it kind of all came together, and I just downloaded that. It's about how you came upon YouTube, and if you have shows, what do you want it for? What do you want it for? Do you comment? Are you just there to be biased and racist? What are you on YouTube for, and how did you find it? Whatever. That's a different video. But this video, I was watching a blood video. He was responding to the boxing historian, I believe his name is. I'll have a link on here if I get it wrong. But if you haven't checked out the Boxing Historian, it's a good channel. And he was just kind of talking about the most anticipated fights of all time, and he named examples. Blood did a response video, and so I'm gonna kind of talk about some too, and just talk about a little different stuff, but the same too, because you can talk about Frazier and Ali, and you talk about all these hyped Evander Holyfield, Tyson, and all these great hype shows. But I think anticipated, as far as anticipated, and there's racism all over the place right now, no doubt. But if you take it back to, let me get the year, 1908, the black and white thing in this country was just to the point of ridiculous. And it's still ridiculous now, don't get me wrong, but the reason why I think this is a crazy anticipated in a couple of these older fights is the most anticipated fights is because what it meant, especially the white people, and how they really felt like they were better and just better overall people, human beings, than black people. And that's the bottom line. That's what they felt. That's what they thought. And this was going to prove them wrong, that type of thing. And so a whole nation type thing to back up. And I'm talking about Jack Johnson. And Jack Johnson in 1908, December 26, 1908, against Tommy Burns in Sydney, Australia, actually. And so that's why I like to bring this up too, because the other one that I'm going to talk about was in Nevada, so it was all over the place. It wasn't just America and just this country. But basically, he had the title. Jack Johnson took the title from him, become first heavyweight black champion ever. And it was 14 rounds in front of 20,000 people. And the police, because the people were just screaming for it to stop. Screaming because they didn't want to. It's like they couldn't accept what was right in front of their face. And even though it was proven right in front of their face, they still couldn't accept it. And the crazy thing about this is, right when old boy Tommy Burns was going down, just about to finish him, right? Jack Johnson was. And they turned the effing camera off. So actually go on YouTube and check out this biography. PBS had a pretty good biography on it, and there's clips of it, and there's all sorts of stuff on YouTube and Jack Johnson, and historical stuff, and look at the frame stops and dudes falling out. It's just a sad thing. It's crazy how even that's how deep rooted the hate was. Stop the camera, stop the fight. We're not even gonna. It didn't happen. You know what I mean? And basically, there was this guy named James J. Jeffries who had retired undefeated. And after he got his belt, Jack Johnson, that's where the Great White Hype came in. They were trying to find any dude 6 foot, 6'2", any big strapping dude, and basically tryouts and get this guy in shape and see if he can beat him. I mean, they were looking high and low for this. Well, they couldn't find it. And so they got James J. Jeffries to come out, and he said he was coming out for this exact reason. I'm going to prove that, white people are better type thing. And same thing happened. This was July 4th, 1910, in front of 22,000. Like I said, it was in Nevada. And same thing was happening. He was getting beat, and he actually beat him, Jack Johnson, at his own style. He just hit and hold, and that's what this guy's style was. Hit you, and then hold. And really boring fight to watch, but he beat him. He beat him straight up. And the crowd, once again, the police had to stop it. The crowd's yelling to just stop the fight, Doc. We don't want to see it. And this, so that had to be, those two fights had to be some of the most anticipated fights ever, just because of the meaning of it. And also, we all know the Joe Louis Max Schmeling Part 2. Some numbers on it, 1938, 70,000 people, 64 up to 64% of the country who own radios listen to it, 70 million people on radio worldwide. Obviously, with world wars going on and what Jesse Owens had done in the Olympics and proven Hitler wrong, that this is definitely one of the most anticipated, if not the most anticipating sporting event in the history of sports, and definitely in the 20th century. And definitely one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I believe, boxing anticipation. Because once again, you had Germany and America. You had that whole thing. You had, it was everything. It was, America against Nazis. It was the whole nine. You can't even imagine how crazy people were for this fight. And then obviously, like the Tyson Spinks, My Generation type stuff. It was just crazy. It was crazy. It was just. The hype for that was unbelievable. And I remember the Leonard Hagler. And this was really anticipated because you had, Sugar Ray, you had Hagler just dominating for years. And Sugar Ray Leonard, when he had retired, had left Hagler. He got him down, I believe, to Madison Square Garden. And got him all the way down there just to say he's going to retire. And that kind of left... that kind of left everyone like, oh, man, don't say that. You know what I mean? Why you got to bring him down ringside? And he had came out, I think, a year or two later and tried to come back because of his, his injury, his disattached retina. And he tried to come back, and he ended up getting knocked down on his butt and retired again. And he was out for quite a long time. So the anticipation for this fight was just crazy. And it had... My grandpa was a huge boxing fan. He grew up in boxing and baseball and horse racing. That's all the sports that were big. That was the three. And so he saw a ton of boxing, and he was just like, how I'm talking about the historian, and really Blood is the resident historian on YouTube. And my grandpa was just a huge boxing fan, and quite a little historian in himself. And I could just listen to him for hours talking about stuff. But he was a blue collar guy that liked Hagler. That he liked that style of fighting. That's how a lot of those old schoolers, they like that, and that's what they were brought up on, brawling. You know what I mean? He respected Leonard, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like Deion Sanders and Barry Sanders. Now he respected Deion. He said he couldn't tackle, but he's the type of guy that lets a guy score, hand it off, or just spike and get it over. Don't be dancing on the 30-yard line. That type of thing. You know what I mean? And we're on the opposite sides. We were so hyped up for this fight. We were on opposite sides of the room. Hagler, Leonard over here, and it was crazy. But anyway, I'd like to hear some video responses. Check out the Historian channel. The guy, I can't remember his name, but I'm gonna post his channel. Nice little channel there. Like to hear more from him. He's definitely fun to listen to. I got some really good videos. But I'd like to hear you guys' most anticipated fight, and some that, I only brought up a couple. So I'd like to hear your, something you've read about or learned about or seen. And then nowadays, like in your generation, your time, what was your biggest fight? Anyway, this has been the Rope-A-Dope Report. I'm your host, Chris Carlson. Peace.